Okay, so I want us to look at something around risk. So we'll be talking about the three types of risk that people can go through or people will get to go through and how to handle these types. As I said, I was teaching this concept with a couple of business leaders, and I felt that in this dispensation, and I have taught this, I started teaching this thing I want to say now in this community, like in the last 2 years. From now, in the next 40, 50 years, 20 years, 10 years, 2030, the world is going to change at a very fast pace, very, very fast. We're in a dispensation where one technology, one platform will disrupt humanity very fast. And a lot is happening. If you are somebody who pays attention to patterns, you will see, for example, the latest one is what? ChatGPT, AI. The growth of it is disrupting a lot of things across dispensations and different industries and all of that. And that will lead to two things. Those who are informed and have the right mindset and know how to anticipate and take advantage of opportunities will make good use of the change that is happening. But people that are not informed, who are ignorant, or who are in darkness, darkness talks about ignorance, and who are not conscious of what is happening will be left behind, right? And there's a popular saying that technology will not really replace human beings, but people that know how to use technology will replace the human beings who do not want to know how to use technology. Okay, so it is important that as a people, we should be conscious of this. Is somebody says my voice is breaking? Is that for everybody or just her? My network seems fine. Can you get me clearly? Can somebody confirm? Can you hear me clearly? Okay. Is it stable now? Okay. More people are confirming. Is it stable now? Do you think it's stable now? Okay, good. Thank God it's stable now. I don't know what happened. Okay, good. So I felt that it's important for us to talk around this topic and stretch our minds into some ideas and some concepts around this thing called risk. Because many people talk about risk, but many people do not understand how they can capitalize on risk as a tool for career growth and business growth. You see, if there's one thing that I'm grateful that I understood at a very long, very, very early is the power and the advantage of being a risk taker, right? And for those who are Christians, you can interpret risk as faith. You see, taking a very bold step when you are not really sure of the outcome, but you are taking it. Okay. So I always say that if there is one thing I strongly encourage people in the marketplace, I strongly encourage especially young people. And if I want to go deeper, deeper, to be more niche, to be more targeted, if you are between 35 years old and 18 years old, one of the most important things you have to understand is risk taking. Because it's no longer a dispensation where a lot of things will be advancing in a very average way. No, a lot of things will be changing so fast. And the next 30 years will redefine anybody who is between 35 and 18 right now. If you're 30 right now, in the next 30 years, you'll be 60. If you're 25 right now, in the next 30 years, you'll be 55. And the next 30 years for this group of people is critical. And if you are average in this group, you're just comfortable and you are not intentional, you are not informed, you are not stretching yourself, you are not understanding certain things, you will be left behind, even though we are in a world where there is a lot of opportunities. You see, I have spent a lot of time across Europe and North America and Middle East in the last 1 year plus. And I have, even though people feel that if you're in America, you're in Canada, you're in Europe and UK, you should be making money and doing well career-wise. But the funny thing is, as months go by, it is becoming more easier for people to be stranded than becoming successful. Not because the opportunities are not there, but because they are not prepared for the opportunities. And one of the core elements to do that is understanding this concept of risk taking. And unfortunately, many people get to perceive risk negatively. So one thing I want to get from this session is recalibrate your mindset and see risk as a growth factor. Understanding risk can set you apart in life, can set you apart in your career, in the company where you work, or as a business owner. You see, because when I analyze as a person, as somebody who is futuristic and try to analyze things and patterns, I have factored risk as one of the most powerful catalysts for growth in the next 20, 30, and 40 years. Why? Because as I said earlier, in this dispensation, you are comfortable. One single innovation can kick you out of the market or make you irrelevant or make you useless, automatic. So if you are very comfortable, whether you're in Africa, you're in a semi-urban area, in a big city, wherever you are, this affects you. You see? So risk becomes important because risk can lead you to innovation and competitiveness. And if you are not innovative and you are not competitive in this dispensation, whether you're a worker, you run a business, a lot is at stake. And one of the core factors that can enhance your innovativeness and your competitiveness is risk taking. And risk is not just about winning or losing, because many times people think that, oh, let me take this step, this risk. But sometimes they are afraid because they feel, what if I lose? But risk is beyond losing or winning. One thing that risk will give you that non-risk takers will never get is insight and wisdom that shape your future decisions. That's one thing I love about risk. That's why that's why to me, I don't fail. If I take a risk now and I end up not sleeping on the street because I am not able to pay for my bills or to take care of whatever, if I'm in Dubai or I'm in Cameroon or I'm in the United States, it's cool. I'm focusing on how can I use the wisdom and the insight from that particular step to build further. That's why the most powerful legacy builders and wealth creators are people. Study their lifestyle. You will see various segments in their life where they took risk. Why? Because risk will open you up to insights and wisdom that will shape your future decisions. And these are insights and wisdom that average people will never get. So embracing risk will encourage you, and I will encourage you to be able to reject conforming to societal expectations. Many people are fitting themselves into societal expectations instead of manifesting their greatest potentials. You get a point? So, for example, I made a post on Facebook a few days ago, and I was saying something funny. And I said there are many people who are stuck in poverty right now because when they want to get a job, they're looking for jobs only in the town where they grew up or where they live right now. There's a good job as long as that job is outside of their city, they don't want to apply because they only want something that is within their family members or friends where they'll be comfortable. At the end, they remain stuck and they remain the same for so long. But if you are going to break out from societal expectations, you are going to stop conforming to what the society has laid down, you need to understand how to take risk. Do what is uncomfortable. Do what is uncomfortable. And another important thing that risk will help you get is you will grow in your creative process. See, this is a fact. If you will grow in your creative process, you should be comfortable at doing things that you are not comfortable at doing. You should be comfortable at trying things that you don't know the exact outcome, but you will do it. Many people struggle to be creative because they are locked up. There's a particular boundary, there's a particular uh, um, uh, 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 blockade or a particular ceiling that they're keeping themselves under. And the only way that they can break out, the only way that they can move ahead is for them to take that risk, which will activate their creative process. So if you are going to activate your creative process, you need to be comfortable at taking risks. Why? Because risk taking in creativity will lead to breakthroughs. And the last thing about this is, if you are here and you're serious at creating generational wealth, at creating generational legacy, then you need to understand how to take risk. Let me say that again. If you are listening to me and you're very conscious that you want to build and establish something that will become generational and leave a good name for your children and their children's children, as the Bible requires, one of the key elements you have to understand is how to take risk. You're a lady, you're married to your husband, you guys need to start talking about this. The risk could be as simple, for example, not everybody will start a company, but everybody can have a stake in a company. It can take as simple as saving money as a couple and you decide to buy shares and stock in a company in the Middle East, in Europe, or in North America. You are not certain whether that company will still be there in the next 100 years or the next 50 years or the next 10 years, but you still do the right analysis and you still buy the stock. You see, that's risk. Because if you're afraid of buying stock, you will only end up living on your salary. And when you retire, normally your retirement benefit is always sometimes half your monthly salary, even not up to, depending on the country where you are. And you start struggling. But if you took the risk of doing the right research and carrying out the right information and buying shares and stock in companies that you anticipate that will last 100 years plus, or you can look for companies that have been existing for 50 years and bank on their track record and history and buy stock and shares in them for the next number of years. And that could be you building generational wealth. You can save money and get into land banking, because when it comes to land, you don't wait before you buy. You buy and you wait, because the concept of land banking or real estate is that as days go by, it is appreciated. You see, because when it comes to making future financial decisions, there are a lot of dynamics that you cannot control. And that is where your ability to be comfortable at taking risk comes in now to enable you or empower you to take that financial step. But I'm not saying that you should just take ignorant financial step. No, I was using the word information a lot when I started talking about this generational wealth, because there are also information available that, for example, if you want to buy stock, now you can buy stock in a company like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, right? Or Facebook, or Apple, or Samsung, or Dangote, UBA, EcoBank, all of this. You can look at their track record, look at their future plans. There's no 100% guarantee that it will be relevant company. They will still be there in business in the next 50 years. But you have information that can guarantee you that at least there's a 90% chance, 80% chance that they will be in business. And you now take the risk of buying stock and buying shares, whatever, so that you can start building your generational wealth. Because many people, I have in this work of coaching and consulting, I've met all types of people. Those who are broken, they're trying to come back to life, and made funny decisions, trying to come back to life, and all of that. And one of them is, I've discovered that people get to be very comfortable, and then time passes by so fast. And when they're about to realize it, it's basically too late to make some kinds of decisions, some types of decisions, right? All right, so this is the introduction about risk. Now, what are the three types of risk that you will face as a person, and how can you handle it? And then we'll round up. Number one is what is called external risk. External risk. External risk is risk outside your control. It's a risk that is pushed or empowered by external forces or external sources. What are the type of risk? Climate change, right? Maybe you're a farmer, and before now, climate used to be so good and favorable for your business and all of that, and then boom. But now a lot of things happening, you can no longer control the climate. Recession, right? Inflation and recession here. Your salary used to be 100,000 francs or $2,000 a month, depending on where you are working. And before you know it, things just get so expensive because of the Ukraine war and Chinese battles and all of this happening. Recession also sets in, the economy is affected. A lot of things keep happening. Or the pandemic, for example, COVID-19, Ebola, things like this. You cannot control, it just happens. Or flood, fire, disaster. If these things get to happen, right? So these things can happen. And these are risks that we are exposed to, whether in a developed country or in a developing country. These are risks that you and I are exposed to, right? And what are the tools that you can use in order to mitigate this risk? You can do what is called scenario role play or scenario planning. Look at around you. What are the possibilities that this can happen? And when you start thinking about these possibilities, you can start laying down plans and structures on how to mitigate the risk. You can do what they call war games. Just try to use people in your head and say, well, what if this person is fighting me or this happens and all of that, right? Or stress testing, start thinking, what is that possible thing that may be stressing you or can stress you tomorrow? You begin to test all of that, because it's good to, and all of these is to help you anticipate, oh, if this happens, what can I do? You see, if this happens, what can I do? If this happens, what can I do? Right? So how can you mitigate these external risks? Number one, you can reduce the impact in case the event occurs. Now, I have advised a lot of my clients in different things concerning how to manage risk and mitigate risk, especially risk that is empowered by external forces that they cannot control. Let me start like clients in Cameroon. Clients who are doing well in Cameroon, I started telling them, look, I am foreseeing that when our president was in power for 30 years plus, the day he would step down or die out, I am foreseeing a short-term political turmoil in Cameroon, and it's going to affect businesses. So if you're making some good money, start opening foreign accounts. And I recommend that have a foreign account in Dubai if you can, or Singapore, or the United States. That is a plan to reduce the impact if that gets to happen. What if there is political turmoil and they start burning buildings and your building gets burnt? Another option was start thinking of how to open branches in other African countries. If you can, think that way. Don't understate that, oh, it's not hard. But if you stretch yourself, you can start managing that. You see, for some people, start telling them, okay, you're able to make money at this level. Okay, start thinking of how you can start buying stocks, no matter how small, or shares in these companies here and there. It's very important. You see, or start thinking of buying land in other countries, whether in the US or you're this. So make sure that you do this. Start having reserves in other bank accounts, just should in case. You anticipate and start thinking of how to mitigate that kind of risk. You see, so these are some things that, so you just need to think carefully, what can you do at your level? What can you implement at your level as a way to mitigate that risk, right? But the fact is that all of us, we are exposed to certain kind of external risk. You never know where it's going to come from, but you can be prepared for it. You can anticipate what may happen and prepare for it, because what you're trying to avoid is that thing should not happen and you are down to zero and there's no way to bounce back. That's why you are thinking of reducing the impact. That's why you're thinking of reducing the impact, so that you should not be stranded and at ground zero and there's no way to rise up. Okay, so no matter what you are making every month, no matter what is happening, start thinking, start having a plan, start having a structure, start having it could be as little as a savings account in a bank that is repeatable, not because you want to save money to get dividends or interest. No, you are saving that money for the purpose of just having that platform where you can reduce the severe impact of any external risk. You see? Yeah, so think about that. The second type of risk is called strategic risk. Strategic risk. This is risk taken to create better strategic returns. You take this risk now. It's not influenced by somebody. It's not influenced by a pandemic or an external force. It is you. And this is my favorite kind. I've taken strategic risk like all my life. Strategic risk is one of the best things that anybody can take, right? What are examples of strategic risk? Credit risk. You have a good business, you do know what, I can bet on this business. I will take a loan of 10 million and come into this business. If it fails, fine, I'll pay that debt small. If you succeed, I'm a millionaire for life, right? That's strategic risk, right? You can take a loan credit risk. Number two example is research and development risk. You can decide and invest part of your money into proper research to understand certain things. You can decide to take your money and pay a coach, pay an expert, just to have access to certain insights and know certain things so that you can plan your life better. You're not paying for immediate breakthrough, but you're being strategic. You're trying to understand, oh, I think if I know, I do this a lot. Sometimes I can pay for somebody to tell me something. It is called strategic information. It must not change, it must not give you money, la, la, la. But there are some things that when you're planning your life, if I'm planning my life 10, 20 years ahead, and I'm missing a piece, I can get somebody who is an expert in that area to get information that they know about that thing that I don't have, so that I can make better decisions and move my life forward. You see? So that is strategic risk. You're using that money, is your hard-earned money, but there's no direct returns, but you want to still take that step to see the outcome. The next example is location risk. Location risk. What is location risk? Maybe you have been in a particular country or particular city for a while, and you seem like, I don't think my life is moving at the pace where I want it to move. I don't feel that in this city, in this town, I am getting access to life-changing opportunities the way I want. I have to move to a bigger city. You leave maybe Boya to Douala, Boya to Yaoundé, Boya to Lagos, Boya to Johannesburg, Boya to Nairobi, wherever, Los Angeles, Canada. Location is a risk. You're not certain. You don't have, there's no 100% certainty that you are going to succeed, but you still make that particular move. Remember, strategic risk is taken to create, and creation is a process. It does not happen overnight. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But it can change your life. You can be in a particular city for 10 years and nothing good is happening. But the day you move to a particular city, boom, that's how you position yourself. For those who are Christians, it becomes easier strategically because you have the help of the Holy Spirit. You get to pray. Suddenly when I think about something with my mind, and okay, you know what, I'm going to pray about it for a couple of days and ask the Holy Spirit for direction and guidance. Is it the right move? What are the possibilities? It happened even just a few days ago. Something I was praying about, thinking and praying about. And as I was in the car, 4 ideas just came in to make it just perfect for what to do. So I need to go and do something in a particular city, right? So there is that advantage because every human being has a human spirit, because you have your body, soul, and spirit. And your spirit is the only part of you that connects to the higher power, to the higher source, to God. And when your mindset is okay, your spirit man cannot communicate with your brains for you to not execute. That's why it's dangerous to have a bad mindset, bad mentality, negative mindset. It is very difficult for somebody with a very negative, something happens, you're only thinking of negativity, you're thinking of crying. No. Because in the midst of chaos, God can still give you direction that will change your life. You need to grow spiritually the way you can operate above the bad things that are happening. Because that particular moment, God can intervene at any time and communicate with you. This is the move that you should make at this particular time. I always ask myself, when Joseph was in the pit, what was he thinking? The right mindset is important for your spirit man to communicate what you should do. Okay, so these are examples of risks that you can take as far as strategic risk is concerned. What are the tools that you can use? Risk map. You can decide and draw for what can happen. In this case, you just try to do like a step-by-step process. I'm going to take step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Just draw a brief everything that will happen in that whole process so that you can see clearly. I do that a lot. I want to do something and it's risky, but it's something that can create better opportunities for me. Sometimes I document the whole process. Sometimes when I do it, and I take a walk. I take a walk. When I'm walking, I think better when I'm walking sometimes. When I'm walking, my mind is calculated. Step 1, step 2, this may happen, it may not happen, and all of that, right? The next thing is identify key risk indicators in that whole process. What are the biggest risk indicators? Where can the biggest risk come from? Do you need more information? Do you need to grow in that particular area? Do you need to ask for more help? This is where sometimes I always ask myself, what is the worst that can happen? What is the worst that can happen? When I want to take a step that is risky, I always come down to the basis. What is the worst that, and I always say, as long as my life cannot be threatened, I will do it. If money is not enough reason to stop me from taking a step. If I lose all the money, it's cool, no problem. I will gain wisdom and insight, like I said earlier. And that wisdom and insight, I can use it in one day and remake the money I lost in that bad decision. You see, you need to start thinking that way. So, what are the key risk indicators in that strategic risk you want to take? Then you can carry out risk-based resource allocation. When you take risk, allocate the resources you have to every step of that risk. It will help you understand how much you need, what you need for you to take that strategic risk. Okay? How can you mitigate it? Reduce likelihood and impact in a cost-effective way. The goal here is reduce the cost of this as much as possible. Sometimes you are taking a strategic risk you can do in a very lean way. For example, let's say I want to do location risk. I've done location risk in my life like 5 times. Go to a new country, new city for the first time, all of that. In all of those, I never rent for the first time. I always get a friend to live for a few weeks or a few months before I rent or I do anything. Yes, you see, because you rent, you're going to use more money. But if you can get a friend that you decide to be uncomfortable, which is okay when you're trying to build a life, because you cannot be proud and poor at the same time, right? So you need to learn how to be uncomfortable to do that which will change your life. So you can reduce the likelihood of the cost of that risk by, instead of renting for the first time, you can live with somebody or you can co-rent with somebody so that you can study the environment gradually before you do anything. You see, so the goal here in mitigating strategic risk is making sure that what you will lose is not so much. It's not too much that will cost you a lot. This is why you need to ask a lot of questions. Who can you get help from? Where can you beg? Something called be a strategic beggar. Do that, right? You mitigate that and you're good to go. And then lastly, preventable risk. This is risk arising from within an organization. This is for business owners and leaders who work in organizations. Preventable risk, risk arising from within an organization. Example, accidents, mistakes, and fraud. These are risks happening within, but you can prevent it. You can anticipate and prevent it, right? So if you run a business, start anticipating accidents and anticipate potential mistakes, anticipate fraud, if any. And you can use tools like standard operating procedures so that people can follow to minimize mistakes, to minimize accidents, and to minimize fraud, right? You can use auditing. You can establish auditing systems that you can use to audit your systems and your processes and your operations to be able to identify fraud. You can establish norms and values that your department works towards or your organization must respect so that the staff can do that, right? The mitigation is you eliminate and prevent to minimize occurrence. That's the mitigation. You begin to implement these and use education and awareness and training and coaching for the purpose of preventing to minimize the occurrence of the accidents, of the mistakes, and the fraud. Okay, so these are these risks that I felt that we should talk about briefly, and you should understand that risk is for your advantage, not your disadvantage. Risk is not there to kill you, but it's there to help you grow. But if you are ignorant and you are unconscious, you are just there basically with no intentionality and no, focus in that direction, risks can negatively affect you. Or you can be in the same spot for 20 years and nothing significant is happening in your life because you are not using the element of risk. Or you can be in a situation where you're consistently getting into trouble because you are not practicing preventable risk. So by all means, these are things that as a professional, as an entrepreneur, you should be conscious about, think about it, take actions, and use it for your advantage. The most disadvantaged people are people who are ignorant of what to do and how to do it and when to do it. But the more informed you are with things like this, you begin to act consciously. Like I like to say, you will not build a thriving career, you will not build a great company from the place of assumptions and guesswork. In this dispensation, guesswork is very dangerous, even as a worker. Just assuming that, you will always be needed in the organization is dangerous. But being conscious and knowing that you need to keep on growing your value and bringing more contribution and positioning yourself as a relevant professional in the organization is important for you. Okay, good. Any questions? Then we'll run up. If you have a question, raise up your hand and you can talk. Questions, comments. Questions must not be within what we have handled. It could be something in your career, in your business you want to talk about generally, or you can text and I may just answer it anonymously if you're not comfortable for the question to be addressed to you. Yes, Gillian, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So I'd like to find out if these three types of risks, how does it apply to people that don't have organizations? Because from my understanding, I understood the external risks and how it can apply to somebody that even has a career without an organization. Same thing for the risk taking, the strategic risks. But now on the third one, the preventable risks, does it apply only in an organization?
No, it applies anywhere you are, even your own personal life. Accidents can happen, right? You're doing projects with your family. What if they're stealing money from you? Those things can happen. So anything that, because when you're embarking on anything, even personal projects and all of that, there are possible risks that can happen. So your job is to make sure that don't go through a risk that you can prevent. And the best way is anticipate it, right? Mitigate it. Have a plan to eliminate it before it happens, right? So it applies to personal life, and even institutions or even relationships, right? Preventable risk. You cannot be in a serious relationship or in a you're married and then you're talking with your ex frequently. That's preventable risk. What if your spouse gets angry? Right? So it's everywhere. So you can decide to identify what is that risk that is preventable, because the issue of preventable risk is it can hurt you. What is that thing that can hurt you that you need to prevent from happening? Okay, good.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Yes, Miss Pa, go ahead.
Thank you, Doctor, for this opportunity. It's always a fortune to listen to you. I'm very grateful for this session. My question goes with a point. I think at that time the network was breaking, where you made a statement that it is dangerous to have a negative mindset because it affects what happens to you. Then you made mention of what you always think that Joseph, what was Joseph thinking when he was in the pit and all of that. So I would like you to please throw more light, because sometimes, when we go through challenges in business and some things, professional lives and others, the negative thoughts are tempted to come into our mind. So maybe more light on how to fight these thoughts.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, Nick, many people who have not really grown, right, get to always have those negative thoughts when challenges come. And because the mind is basically, for many people, design is like it's like the default setting for their mindset is to think of the negative things that will happen, right? Or when their life is going through series of challenges, they focus on those series of challenges and they forget the possibilities of tomorrow or what may happen. So, and it is always important to understand that what you think and how you think will contribute a lot to the quality of actions you take and the quality of knowledge that you need. Now, knowledge here is deeper than you think. Listen carefully. There are three types of knowledge. There is knowledge you gain from school or formal training. There is knowledge you gain from experience, the things you go through. Then the highest level of knowledge is called revelational knowledge. This is the knowledge that comes from your human spirit, communicated to you by your source. Now, for Christians can call it revelation, but the world calls it imagination. The quality of your, like I said, if you're going through a difficult season and you allow your mind, you allow the season to defeat your mind to focus on that season, you cut off from revelational knowledge. Because it is revelational knowledge that changes lives and destinies. With revelational knowledge, you can do something, you can create something that you can sell or deliver to people, and they pay you millions or hundreds of thousands. Or you can make one decision in your business that a lot get to change. But when the quality of your mindset is negative and wrong and not empowering, you now step down from functioning from that revelational knowledge, or what people may call imagination. So you begin to function just on your traditional knowledge and depending only on your experience. And what if your previous experiences have been bad experiences? Many people are living defeated lives at the age of 30, 40, even 50, 60, Not because they were supposed to be defeated in life, but because their mindset shuts them off from the higher dimension of possibilities that are available in life. What can make you think that you are going to be a billionaire tomorrow, even now you cannot feed? Traditional knowledge and experience cannot give you that. It comes from another level of knowledge. That's why the Bible talks about the spirit of knowledge. So it's very, if you want to tap into revelation, your mindset has a big role to play. You see, if you are somebody Christians who pray, I always say that it is needless for you to pray have the wrong mindsets. Because I don't think the Holy Spirit will speak and you even hear, because the Holy Spirit is not a negative spirit. Right? It's a forward, like you be in a chaotic situation, but he will telling you about possibilities. And if your mindset cannot accept the possibilities available, you will lose the insights and the prophetic information or the spiritual intelligence that is being communicated to your human spirit. But you cannot pick it up because your mind is so defeated and so focused on negativity. Now, I've told you guys many times, anything that will negatively affect your mindset and your heart set is not worth it. It's not. Even if somebody betrays you, it's not worth it. That people don't get to understand when you try. Sometimes words cannot explain. That is why now these are more deep things now. And this thing is recorded. Now there are some things that when they go in public, people will not understand. So